Welcome to Nuanced Beauty. This podcast is intended to be a spot where my husband Bill and I will capture some complex thoughts and challenge us to hold to our opinions loosely so that we can see the beauty in others and the beauty in ourselves. I want to challenge us to dive deeper into those everyday topics and those sticky topics that we might shy away from, or we might bulldoze over others with our opinions. Because I think there's wisdom in this idea that if we all thought exactly the same, there would be no need for anyone else. So let's have a conversation and let's get nuanced. Hi guys, welcome back to Nuanced Beauty. Before we get going here, I wanted to say thank you because we have surpassed 500 listens. Bill, can you believe it?
I don't want to believe it. I actively do not want to believe that people are listening, or else I will not continue to talk.
So I'm not going to be able to show him that anybody is listening because the only thing that gives him the courage to speak here is that he thinks no one's listening to us.
No one's listening anyway.
Yes, he regularly says that. So, you got Bill here, you got Christina here, and we are excited to jump into the next topic. What do we got, Bill?
Well, we've been listening to the Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling podcast on the Free Press, and they were talking about the advent of phrases like microaggression and trigger warning, and these things are really in the modern parlance today that really came out of a subculture in a social media site called Tumblr. And it's interesting that kind of all came out then, but then this week elsewhere, the topic of trigger warnings came up again. And if you don't know what a trigger warning is, that's great. That's
because I don't know. Well, I didn't.
Well, you
know.
didn't, and that's
what's humorous about it. Yes.
It's a warning that someone who puts out content might put at the front of their whatever they're putting out, whether it's a podcast, a movie, a TV show, a curriculum a teacher might put out, saying, "Hey, we might talk about something that you might find offensive, or that you might bring up trauma that you've had. Like, hey, we're going to talk about sexual harassment today." And so you can either say, "Okay, I don't want to, so I'm going to go," and that's fine, or be prepared for it in any case. But there was a study that came out this week that said, oh, I'm going to butcher it, that the putting of trigger warnings ahead of
is in itself
worse,
causing a trigger.
Yeah, it
reaction.
It appears to be, and and I kind of get it. Like if you're told, "I'm going to punch you in the face," and then punch them in the face, it's kind of like the anticipation actually makes it worse. You're going to like psych yourself up to be stressed about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people who are against these sorts of what you could call compassionate warnings are really championing this. Like, yes, we told you, we in your face, snowflakes. How would trigger warning this? And I get it. I get it because I thought that for a long time.
So then we have to go back in time to a
time.
place where Christina did not know what a trigger warning was.
So I was really against this concept of trigger warning until I saw a play called Titus Andronicus.
Mm-hmm.
And Titus Andronicus is a Shakespeare play that is, by design, super gruesome. Part of the fun, if you can call it that, of Titus Andronicus is to see how many gallons of red-tinged corn syrup the play actors can use on stage, because it is gratuitous violence and gore and blood. There's pumps of just like spraying blood everywhere, and as a kid who grew up on 80s action movies, part of me was like, hey, that's cool. But then there is a gruesome rape scene, like on stage for the most part, with knives and things, and then the actual act takes place off stage. When she comes back on, there's blood going down her legs, and her hands have been cut off, and her tongue has been cut out, and the whole idea is that she won't be able to name her accusers because of she doesn't have fingers, and I guess they don't realize you can probably point with the stump. There's a kind of a plot hole in there.
Yeah,
but yes, it's like, awful.
Just you saying that.
I was shaking. We should have trigger warning this episode. I was really shaken by this play, And so the friend I saw it with, we kind of talked about it afterwards, and there's fruit in that. Like me and my friend talked about kind of whatever our experience was watching this, and that's part of the purpose of art.
Yeah, to evoke an emotion,
Yeah. So
potentially. Yeah.
sometime later, I saw on Facebook they were talking about, oh, they're putting trigger warnings on Shakespeare plays now. Oh, they're gonna trigger warning Romeo and Juliet, but it's very clear from the thumbnail picture that they were trigger warning Titus Andronicus, which
Uh-huh.
as a
You're like, no, guys,
no,
I've actually seen this play, and this is not Romeo and Juliet.
no, this is not Romeo and Juliet. This is this other play which has this scene that's like this, and I don't have experience in this realm. But if you did, man, that'd really
That
throw you
would be
for a loop.
harsh. Yeah.
And of course, like I did the thing that nobody should do, which is engage in an argument on the internet. But someone was wrong on the internet, and I was triggered by that. So I started like arguing with this person. It's like, yeah, I know it's not Romeo and Juliet, but like imagine if it was, right? But it's not.
Like, that's the point. It's not. Yeah.
And so this was before we had kids. So Christina got home, and we were actually able to talk.
Just real quick question.
All right.
Are you still friends with this friend on Facebook? Well, you don't have a
I'm
Facebook.
not on Facebook anymore.
Are you
No, this wasn't
were you
even a
still
friend
friends?
on Facebook.
Oh
This
gosh,
was
this
just
is
like,
even worse.
yes.
He wasn't even talking to
A
a friend.
random person on the internet, but he had to know that this was a really like
atrocious atrocity.
It really was. And so Christina
Till I
got
get
home,
yeah.
and I'm like, you won't believe the argument I had today on Facebook about trigger warnings. And bless her heart, she said, "What's a trigger warning?"
Yeah.
Like, have you been living under a rock, bro?
Yes. So
so
I regularly am not living under a rock, but there are things about pop culture and trivial things that Bill is like in tune with. Like he's on Reddit, he pays attention to this information, and things that I don't find particularly applicable to my everyday stuff, I just kind of ignore. Like, and I don't go out there looking for it. So in the case of trigger warnings, nope, had no clue.
No idea. But I was present on Tumblr at the inception of this because I am a huge Harry Potter fan, and I look at like gifs of Harry Potter and Doctor Who and things. That's what the good.
That was the original part of Tumblr.
The OG Tumblr, when you're just like a fan of things and enjoy it with people. But so I explained to her, like, okay, let's put my education hat on and explain the history of trigger warning. And she says, "Oh,
so it's a movie rating."
Yeah, which we've been doing forever. The MPA puts out.
Yeah, sounds like a movie rating. Like I'm not really for sure what the difference is.
Yeah, she's like, what's the big deal about having trigger warnings on things? It's just like what we have on every movie and TV show since like the 30s.
It's a really good point.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Like, it seems actually in retrospect perfectly appropriate to put, up front, like, hey, there's nudity in this show. So if you're going to watch it with your kids, don't. Or whatever. Make your decisions. Make an educated decision. You don't want to be halfway through Titus Andronicus with your 10-year-old thinking it's like an action movie and then run into that.
Yeah.
So super fair to have a warning up front. So I guess the question is, what's wrong with this?
Right. Well, and then, so a whole nother story, like more recently, on Honestly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did the professor lose their job or not? We don't know for sure.
Which
the one with the Muhammad.
Oh yeah.
So another trigger warning topic that we heard about through
there was an art professor
Honestly,
who was teaching a class on Islamic art, and she put in her syllabus, hey, on week 8 or whatever, we're going to study this famous painting that features the Prophet Muhammad. If you are uncomfortable with that, you cannot come that day. That's fine. And so the head of the Islamic Student Union, who was taking that class, did show up and was offended and complained as such. And the teacher was suspended. I do think she came back. I don't think she was suspended. And then there was a pushback.
Yeah.
And she was reinstated.
And side note on that, like, I think you did some digging, or from that podcast episode, we just kind of learned a little bit about like showing images of Muhammad in certain parts of Islam is just not.
It's not a primary doctrine.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it's a conviction that certain like sects of Islam have, and it's not even that it's in itself sinful. It's the idea is that, excuse me, you're supposed to have a relationship between you and their deity, or you and Muhammad, and not have it be clouded by images that then like you're
What you
yeah
prescribed to for this to be.
exactly or
Yeah.
something like that. And I'm butchering it,
Yeah.
but
And yeah,
um
forgive us. We don't know everything on this
no,
topic.
but what was interesting is because I didn't know this because there was a huge riots in France when we were in high school about there being a comic of the prophet.
Yeah. A comic of the prophet.
Which caused all kinds of issues. But again, did the trigger warning in that woman's syllabus actually help or hurt? It obviously didn't solve the problem.
Right. Yeah. It didn't, in this case, yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't help.
Apparently, the professor, even before she put the PowerPoint up, led like a discussion about
This topic and
this
why.
topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
did everything she could have,
Yeah.
and it still caused the issue. So are trigger warnings then effective in what they're trying to do? And the answer appears to be no.
Yeah.
And so where I've kind of landed on it is that the spirit of it appears that it's trying to do something that makes sense and is good.
Yeah.
But if the
Similar to rating movies, like we discussed, like
yeah
it's trying to give you a heads up of like based on your background or maturity, like in movies, right? Like how much you conceptually understand. Maybe that's the level you should like consider
yeah,
watching.
but I think that there's a mentality of looking for something to be hurt by.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this idea that words hurt. And Chris Rock, I guess, and I haven't seen his new Netflix special, but I heard it's hilarious. Made some comments to the effect of, "If you think words hurt, it's because you've never been punched in the face."
Oh gosh.
Which is good. Or the only time words hurt is if it's written on a brick.
Oh goodness.
Which I think
Which is like there's some nuance to that because it's not really true. Like it's like when
uh,
you're growing up, like sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never
will
hurt me.
forever.
Or but in reality, they will hurt forever. Like you remember hurtful words. Like words do matter. And maybe we shouldn't take everything so seriously.
Well,
So I
think
don't know.
we're very far removed from needing to survive.
Yes. Like we're very comfortable.
We're incredibly comfortable
as a society and bored.
Yeah, well, I think that we have an instinctual desire or instinctual need to uh, identify threats
Mm-hmm.
because that's how you survive. That's how you not get eaten by a wolf. You spend time sitting there thinking, "Is there a wolf around here?"
Mm-hmm.
And if the wolf kills you and doesn't provide a trigger warning ahead of killing you, that just makes it doubly worse.
Goodness.
I just made this case for trigger warnings, but I can't not make fun of it. So I think it just needs to be rebranded. Because it's just been lampooned and somewhat rightfully so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's a microaggression. No, I'm just kidding. That's a totally different word. That's in the spectrum.
It is, but it does go along the same lines of
These
like if you're
loaded.
you're looking for something to be hurt by.
Yes.
You're gonna find something to be hurt by.
Yes.
I do it all the time in our marriage.
Yes.
I'm looking for something to be hurt by, and you're like, the garbage should be going over there instead of over there, and I'm like,
but I put the garbage there. My being,
this is
feel
clearly
an
representative.
attack on my being.
It's clearly representative of a much broader bigotry in our household against husbands and where they put their garbage. So if you look for things, you'll find it.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, your mindset. It's but I don't know. I don't want to broad stroke that and be like, oh well, a trigger warning is just a mindset, because come on now, like no, there are serious things. Oh, though, there is an interesting concept in regards to like counseling, like immersive therapy.
Oh, desensitization?
Is that what it's called?
Well,
Desensitization? Like a
I
component of like if you struggle like being in a small space, like I don't know. And that doesn't necessarily, with your example of this play and trigger warnings frequently being like related to sexual trauma.
And any trauma, but yeah.
Yeah, and so trauma is not, it's hard because I guess that doesn't really align.
No, I don't want to be exposed into gradually more grotesque rape scenes until I'm comfortable with it. I don't want to be comfortable with this.
Exactly. Like you should be very uncomfortable with that. Like regardless, like that is depravity. Like that is
the utmost.
Hey, yeah.
Which is why that fella on the internet was wrong, and he had to know that.
But then it's almost like you end up arguing about just the concept and like missing the bigger point. like having, like you said, like having compassion for people's, where they're coming from, their
Yeah,
background.
I think this is a feature, not a bug, of how social media is structured algorithmically.
Mm-hmm.
That we have been trained to find what's different between us and not what's the same between us.
Mm,
And so that's like there's 1,000 things we could agree on,
yeah.
but which play is being trigger warned
Yeah.
is the thing we're going to argue about.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing that we're not seeing eye to
That's
eye
not,
on.
yeah, that, and it plays into the whole idea of like us wanting to glorify our uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like it's like, what's the one thing that we don't agree upon? And it's also like, well, I need to cling to the one thing that we don't agree upon
Mm-hmm.
and convince you that this is a big deal.
Well, and in
And that's
fairness,
hard.
being right feels
Feels great.
really good.
Yeah, but like,
Really good.
but I don't have to convince anybody. I just
Mm-hmm.
simply know it.
And that's good for you. But that's
Not
another
everybody
thing that
is that. Yeah.
I feel like is coming out of the which trials with J.K. Rowling podcast is that
Yeah.
the absolute snapback that she saw
Yeah.
is people jumping on this bandwagon because it feels so righteous
Righteous
anger.
indignation.
Oh, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And by a lot.
I don't, yeah. I hear you. It's just, yeah, we really like, yes, we like to feel proud and we like to feel correct and kind of have the moral high ground. And then that's the other component, is maybe we're taking too many things to a moral high ground. And I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's intentional with how social media is structured. So
Yeah.
and it drove engagement. I had like 4 or 5 comments on this Facebook post. That's what I'm saying. This
like people wanted to comment on that topic.
Wanted to comment on it.
Yeah.
And so I think the heart of a trigger warning is inherently good.
Yes.
I think
the execution, the application.
Yes, if it's used as a cudgel to
What's a cudgel?
A club.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Continue.
If it's used as a weapon,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not doing as intended, which is to try to make things less violent in your life.
Yeah, less tense and tumultuous. Yeah.
Yes. So,
okay.
The challenge that I want to leave you with, dear listener, is well, hey, engage with our Instagram with the things that you agree on. Although it's not going to drive as much engagement. What are your and maybe I could ask the question this way.
Broader question.
Well, yeah, like what? Obviously, the term trigger warning has been in the zeitgeist for 5-10 years now.
Yes.
So, what were your thoughts when you heard the term, and how has that evolved over time? And I want to challenge you to be uncomfortable with it, because it's really easy. It's one of those binaries
to make your stance and just sit there.
To make your stance and sit. Well, if you are a member of this group of people, then you believe this, and if you're a member of that group of people, then you believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And the homogeny of doctrine culturally, makes it so that you're not allowed to disagree with your tribe. And stop it, cut it out, stop it, stop that right now.
Yeah. Think critically and engage with others that don't agree. Get nuanced. With that, I think we could take it home. Yeah,
I think so.
All right, guys. Engage with us on Instagram and let us know if anything triggered you today. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right, this is the part of the podcast where we recommend a book for this week.
Yes, and as a reminder, the intent is not necessarily to make this a book club or that you read every single book we suggest every week.
No, that'd be entirely too many books. All this is just coming from the fact that a lot of the conversations we've had and the conversations that we've wanted to share have come from books that we've read and topics that we enjoy. So with all the books out there, sometimes it's hard to choose what you like. So this is our contribution.
Yeah, and we generally hope that it ties in a little bit with the episode. All right, for this week's book recommendation, I would like to suggest Surprised by the Healer, Embracing Hope for Your Broken Story. This book was written by Linda Dillow and Dr. Julie Slattery. Linda and Julie founded an organization called Authentic Intimacy, and it is it's a Christian ministry focused on sexuality. And Dr. Julie Slattery and Linda Dillow, they've both written many, many books. Um, and I've read a lot of them. But this one in particular, I thought would be a good recommendation at the heels of this episode on trigger warnings and with reference to a graphic rape scene from Shakespeare. I guess I would say that sexuality is very, very powerful, and you just never know the shoes that someone has walked. And um, I'd like to read one paragraph from chapter 1. It says, "Tragically, many, many Christians believe that we are doomed to lose the battle of sexuality. They reason that some wounds are too deep, some people just too broken. After all, why would God care about sex? They may never say it, but the vast majority believe this lie. When you give your life to Christ, He is able to redeem and clean up a lot of areas. However, there is one area that is beyond His redemptive healing power: your sexuality. You may be forgiven, but you can never be whole." Um, yeah, so that is the book for this week. I think it's a very powerful book. I have read it and I found a lot of healing for myself in it. And if this is something that is a topic that resonates with you, I recommend picking it up. Again, the title is Surprised by the Healer by Linda Dillow and Dr. Julie Slattery. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you aren't already following us, please follow us on your Spotify or Apple Podcast account. And look us up on Instagram at nuance_beauty. Until next week.